Welcome to Bengals on the Brain. I'm Joe Goodberry. The Bengals didn't have any free agency moves. That's okay. We're back in draft grind. We're back in watching prospects. Me personally, I'm watching defensive ends, defensive tackles that I didn't see the first time. Defensive ends, a lot of them. Corners. I want to circle back on the corner class and get to a lot of these guys that could potentially be there in the first or second round. As the Bengals filled most of their needs in free agency, the one thing we can't forget is how they like to draft 1 year in advance. And I think one of those positions where they could do that is at corner, where Chidobe Awuzie is in the last year of his deal. Mike Hilton has 2 years left, so they could probably wait a little bit on a slot corner. But Cam Taylor-Britt probably being the other guy there, and Sidney Jones isn't a long-term solution. So if you've got one starter for the next 3 years or so in Cam Taylor-Britt, you're probably going to need to find another guy. Whether that's in this very strong class, in the first, second, third round, I could see a corner being drafted. If I were to list right now the top 3 positions on the Bengals that they'll likely draft in the first 3 rounds, I'd probably say tight end, running back, and probably corner. Although I do think defensive tackle, despite spending a pick there last year with Zachary Carter in the 3rd round, and I think we could still see right tackle and maybe even a defensive end. So we got a lot of premium picks or a lot of premium positions the Bengals could spend at that could maybe slide running back and tight end down a little bit because those aren't premium positions. But corner is probably, I haven't thought about this before I was going to say it, but probably my favorite position to watch in college football and for the draft process. Largely because I've had some success there. A lot of players in the past that I've really enjoyed watching and that I was either high on or early on became really good players in the NFL. I'm not here to toot my horn or anything on that stuff. It's not what I'm trying to do. Guys like Stephon Gilmore at one point were 2nd round picks. And early in the draft process, watching his tapes in order, he taught me a lot. I think of Stephon Gilmore a lot at corner because a lot of people saw up and down play. When I watched him, I saw him get better throughout that final year at South Carolina. I saw when he had ball skill troubles and when his ball skills looked really good, and then also saw really high intelligence to go with very physical and competitive spirit. I think those two match together. I'll talk the corner position more in depth in a second. But I had him as the top 10 player that year. Ended up winning Defensive Player of the Year with the Patriots. And there's been a few other corners that I've really been high on. The things I look for when watching or scouting corners, I talked about the competitiveness and the physicality. I know their job is to cover. I know their job is to do all these other things. But when you see a guy that's willing to get involved on every single play, willing to stick his nose in, try and knock the ball down, try and rip it out, fighting and talking with that receiver on the other side, not scared at all. You got to have some confidence. You got to be a little bit crazy to play this position. It's a very thankless position, I think, in a lot of ways. But when you see that competitive spirit, it tells me what I need to know. You can be a poor tackler. You can be a guy that's a little bit thin or small. But if you've got that drive and that want to make a tackle on defense, you're going to be fine. And then the other one I'm looking for is ball skills. Locating the ball in the air, tracking the ball in the air, making a play on it, not panicking and pulling and grabbing. Everything else can be taught or can be worked on or can be, if you're a tight athlete or not a great athlete, some of the other stuff can be hard to work on. But for the guys that we're talking about in the first, second round, most of them are going to be high-end athletes with production that played at good colleges, big colleges. Do they have the ball skills? Do they have the competitiveness in terms of being a bit crazy, talking a little bit of smack, but also getting involved as a tackler and as a run defender? And I've got one guy here that we run him through the process. I liked him at first on film, and then the process spit him out in terms of height, weight, speed, production at the college level, especially ball production, tackling at the college level, but PFF grades, testing, everything that goes into our formula to spit out a number says this guy's probably a top 12 player in this draft. And people are wondering if the Bengals should even consider him at 28 because of one issue in his profile. And that's Mississippi State's Emmanuel Forbes. Emmanuel Forbes is a 3-year starter down there in Mississippi, playing over 700 snaps every single year. He is an off corner a lot in their system, only man coverage about 26% of the time, but he looks like a press man corner in the times he does it. Like, I think that's his value. But he's nearly 6'1". He's got long arms, long wingspan, the most ball production out of anyone. His ball skills are A+. He's a risk to throw against because of that ball production, because of how good he tracks the ball and makes a play on the ball. He's got an innate ability to find it and secure it and then score afterwards. 6 pick sixes in his career. He had 14 interceptions. He had another 20 passes defensed. Really good ball production. I didn't get to the big negative yet, but he ran a 4.35, tested really, really well. So he's an elite athlete with elite production. He's got the size you want in terms of length. He's got the competitiveness I want. He's got the ball skills I want. He weighed in at the combine at 166 pounds at nearly 6'1". He weighed in at his pro day at 170 pounds. He looks thin on tape, rail thin. He reminds me, if I were to make a comparison to another player that was super thin, but it did not affect him at all. I mean, everyone's affected by their limitations in some way. I mean, in the large picture, is he affected by that size? He is not. Reminds me of Devonta Smith, the wide receiver out of Alabama, who was also 170 pounds, still went top, 12 or 13, whatever it was, to the Eagles. Good player. Sometimes you're a thin guy and you're still super strong. Maybe I'm a little defensive as a thin guy growing up. It never bothered me, and I don't think it bothers Emmanuel Forbes at all. When we dip into the tape here, I think you're going to see a smart guy with ball skills that's super competitive. He, to me, looks like a slam dunk, despite that weight, for pick 28. Let's look at the film. Mississippi State's Emmanuel Forbes wearing the great number 13 at corner. And we're going to watch him versus Alabama. Why not? Alabama's great competition. We got a play action, long, deep crosser that he just easily stays with this guy, even with the subtle movements of this route where the guy may lean out and then pull it back in just to try and gain some separation. Forbes is almost running this route for him. As you see, he's cutting inside, actually even cutting even harder than the receiver is here, if that ball's even thrown. And the quarterback's actually looking right down the middle initially. If you see, he's waiting for this guy to potentially get open over the middle into the next window. It just is never there. How is Forbes, though, at 170 pounds versus the run? Well, he doesn't play like he's 170. Yeah, in fact, he doesn't even, I think mentally he has no idea he's 170, or he sees it as a slight and he wants to prove to everyone that he can play physical as he does right here. But we're going to show a lot of clips here, too, where Emmanuel Forbes uses his intelligence, especially in zone coverage. Played a lot of zone at Mississippi State. You got a combo route. You got a high-low read here. He's got to watch he's got to get deep enough so they don't throw the deeper route, the out route. But he's also got to get and be in position to close on the shorter guy just in case the quarterback wants to throw it in that direction. You see the quarterback is looking there, reading high-low. And because of the positioning that Forbes is in, he doesn't throw either. So he ends up creating a big play for himself, but it wasn't there. So we got a deep out route here, almost a flag route, and because of the way the angle is. But you'll see at the top of the route here, the receiver's going to try and cut underneath, break his arms, and get open. Forbes is on top, never stressed about it, never out of position. He's a little grabby at the top. Like I said, you got to walk that line. I think he does very well. The quarterback looks that way and doesn't go there. Here's another play where you're going to say, well, he threw this receiver to the ground. He's going to get flagged for this. But actually, it's a really smart play because he's in off coverage, comes up and gets on this guy. Because as you know, as the quarterback escapes the pocket, if he's outside the pocket or the tackle box, you can do what you want with these receivers because the quarterback's basically a runner. So go ahead and throw him down, push him down, engage in blocking. There's no illegal contact anymore. Do what you got to do to get that target out of there for the quarterback. Cover 2 press situation, the safety is up over the top here, so they're communicating between the two. He's going to try and press this guy, jam him. He kind of misses, and then that ball comes over the top. The safety's a little late getting over there. Hits him with a little headshot. But I think Forbes could have had a better press on this play for a guy with long arms. I'd like to see it a little bit more. Going to fake the press here, almost fake the blitz, but he's going to run into a similar situation where it's a high-low combo route where he's got to carry this guy further enough to let that safety get on him, and then the quarterback's going to come underneath, and he's got to come up and make this tackle. It's a goal line play here. Protect the touchdown, come up, make a tackle. You're 170 pounds. You got to come up and make this play, and he does. In fact, the more you watch him, you really don't see an issue with his weight, or at least not being scared at all. He will come in and lay hits. He will fight guys. He will talk after plays. He will get involved. He picks and chooses like any corner does. But when he chooses to go for it, man, he goes for it. I posted clips on Twitter, a bunch of his physical plays, making tackles, breaking blocks, throwing guys around. He is a highly graded run defender from PFF, a good tackler. I do think, like this play is an example. He's coming in, he's filling, man. He's closing that gap. And you see he's got one arm, good grip strength on that guy. He's getting thrown around a little bit. This is a 200-pound, running back. So you'd like to see him be able to really hit that guy. Again, crossing route. Not even a sweat broken at all on that. And he's talking the whole way across, right? Ends up being a sack for the defense. But the physicality in press and in tackling and getting off blocks, I don't think it's an issue with him at all. And here's another mental rep where one of the hardest things in man coverage is fighting through trash, especially on these drag routes where that receiver is going to run across the middle. You got linebackers over there. You got tight ends. You got other receivers, and you've got to be able to fight through those guys cleanly without ever getting hit. And Forbes does this very easily and naturally. You see the quarterback's even looking, like waiting for that guy to get open on the other side, and Forbes beats him to that point. Move on to the next game that I think was his worst game versus Kentucky, but he had a couple really big plays in this one. You see both these guys hook up, and Forbes is going to say, okay, since the other underneath guy is taking that outside boundary guy, the receivers or the quarterback's got to be throwing this to the slot guy that's hooking up, and he starts breaking to this play as the ball's really getting thrown by the quarterback. So he's on this instantly. It kind of saves a little bit run after the catch, and he holds him up and actually helps rip that ball out of there. So great mental and then hustle play by Forbes. This is one of the few plays where he gets beat on, and it's a deep ball. And I think he thinks either the ball's coming out sooner and it's already out, or he just never finds it or sees it. He only glances for a quick second. So to me, this is like an effort play of like, man, I can't believe they're actually testing me deep, and he gets beat on it. But, in some of these, you just say, hey, you got on that one. This is going to be similar to the Alabama play I showed earlier, where he's going to grab at the top of this route as the receiver's trying to break out, and he's going to get flagged for it, mostly because I think the ball is on time and probably could have been caught. But when I watched it real close and even on the TV copy, I didn't think it was bad. Like he's walking that line of fair and foul, and it is what it is. Here's a touchdown, and I think it's going to go against Manuel Forbes, but at the same time, I want to steal this red zone play from Kentucky. Nice job having the slot guy take that safety's attention while you're running. It's not their first window, second window. Nice throw by Levis. There's just nothing you can do there. It's just a really good design. But this is the best play probably of the season for any corner, and maybe a top 10 play. As soon as this guy comes in motion, watch Forbes' reaction. And he's got eyes in the backfield the whole time. He knows based on formation, based on the motion, based on the set of the quarterback, how short and shallow he sets. He jumps this screen pass and takes it to the house. This is a fantastic play mentally, physically, and ball skills for him, A+, and I think in all these areas. It's just one of the best plays, game, turning play, or at least for him as he was having kind of a rough go at it, to be able to end that game with that one there is really good. And we're going to flip through a bunch of plays here from the season that I thought were really good. He's in the deep third coverage, so he's carrying this vertical route, and they're going to try and almost have like a wheel vertical behind him, the number 2, and watch how he flips his hips as his eyes are on the other guy. He realizes what they're trying to attack him with, and quickly and smoothly transitions and says, okay, you're trying to get me to carry the vertical guy while running a guy behind me, and picks it off and returns it to the house. He had 6 pick sixes, 6 of them in his career. Ball skills, just tremendous. You want to be a press corner. Press corners got to turn their back to the ball, run with receivers, find the ball, rip it out. That's what he does right there. Similar situation here. Misses the press. He's in trail. This reminds me of William Jackson's profile. But then run with the guy, find the ball, high point the ball, interception in the end zone for Emmanuel Forbes. And if you're not going to be the biggest guy, beat him with speed and intelligence, right? So get around your block before he can even get a hand on you. Make the tackle in the backfield, and then talk some crap to the sideline if you want. Go ahead. Off coverage here, and little hook route in front of him. Break the ball up. Long arms, ball skills. Now he's in off coverage here, and it's just going to be an out route.
And when you got a guy like Forbes, he gives a little bit of the space for the out route. It's open. But if you're going to be late and behind on the throw against a guy like this, you're going to pay. It's what makes him so scary to even test, to even throw against, because this ball should have been there. And if you're just slightly inaccurate, no one else is catching this ball, keeping their feet in, and then scoring on it. Like, it's really an innate ability for him, a high-level ability. We got off coverage here. They're just going to say, all right, smoke route, just hook up underneath. Well, he closes instantly, rips the ball out. You're not going to get those easy plays on him. Again, getting physical. Come in, make a tackle, right? If they're not going to block you, fine. Finish it.
So that's just two of the games I thought were really important in the evaluation. The Alabama, the Kentucky game, high and low, because I think it shows the entire picture. There are other games, there are other clips on YouTube and on my Twitter account at Joe Goodberry. I can't post here because it was just TV copy stuff. You can't post that on YouTube, it'll get taken down. But I posted them on Twitter, and there's a lot of them, a lot of tackles, a lot of hits, a lot of being physical. I did a compilation of just those videos, of just those clips. I also did one of ball skills. These two games here, you don't really get to see the ball skills like that I'm talking about. They're A+. Like, you got to at least watch the highlights. Now that you've watched two games and partials of others, you know what he is. Now you can go watch the highlights. Now I would say, yeah, feel free. Watch the highlights. You already have a good idea. Now see what he can do. And it's really, really good. So I urge you, once this is done, to go right over and type in Emmanuel Forbes highlights or Emmanuel Forbes versus VS. And you'll get cut-ups of his games from the past few seasons. He's been very productive for 3 years now. The one thing I think about with him, one more point before I get to our last guy. I think of Richard Sherman when I watch him. The intelligence, the length, the ball skills. And I think that's what Sherman was always so good at. When you have a guy, and I think people kept trying to find the next Richard Sherman. They would draft these. I don't know if you remember Stanley Jean Baptiste. He was a 6'2.5" corner. His ball skills were terrible, and he couldn't move. And I wasn't sure of his IQ in terms of football. But I don't have those reservations with Forbes. If you're looking for a Sherman type, that would be great in like a cover 3 off coverage. That's what they played at Mississippi a lot. But I think he can be press man. He's got the agility and the speed to do it and the ball skills to do it. But if you're looking for that type, man, Forbes would be dangerous in a similar way that Richard Sherman was, because teams, after the first couple of years of Sherman really playing at a high level, they stopped targeting him. They stopped throwing it to that side. And that's the definition of a shutdown corner. When as soon as you line up, you're like, I'm not even going that direction, because the risk of him picking off the ball or making a play on this ball or this pass, or even as I'm trying to combo him and get him off and get him to the other guy, he's reading it so well. The risk is not worth the reward. We'll just work on the other half of the field because he is so good mentally and with his ball skills that it's not worth it. And I think Forbes got into that with Mississippi State, where I showed the one versus Kentucky where he was shocked they even threw a deep ball. Like, he's almost shocked when they complete a pass on him, but just because teams stop throwing against him because it's so risky to do so. And that's the type of corner I really, really want for the Bengals. I like Cam Taylor-Britt, but I think when I look at Forbes, I think of a corner one that really gives you things that you don't have with Cam Taylor-Britt, and the upside there is tremendous. So the next guy I've got also grades out as a top 12 guy, and now nobody has him this high. And it's because his production numbers are insane, and he tested insane. Tape-wise, I got him as a fringe first-round guy. The consensus has him getting picked between 40 and 55. So maybe he'd be there at 60. I've done mock draft simulators. He's there at 60. And I'm like, yeah, slam dunk. I'll take it every time. But the grade keeps saying this guy's going to be good. And he was highly productive in an SEC school again. He's got the size. He's got the athleticism. And he's still young. Same way Forbes is too. Forbes is 22 years old. And I'm talking about Derek Hall out of Auburn. He's a pass rusher. And I want to put the tape on first, because I want to show what he can do and his limitations, because he's not perfect. The score likes him, and the spreadsheet and the score, that's what I'm talking about there, how the formula spits him out. That likes him as a top 12 player. Like, he's going to hit his potential, whatever you deem that to be. He's going to hit it. But I'm going to show his strengths and weaknesses on tape, and then we'll come back and talk about Derek Hall. And if he's there at 60, run to the podium. But in an extreme scenario like last year, where all the corners went, and a couple other positions or guys that we thought maybe if they'd fall, they'll still be there. Bengals will select them. It's funny now because I think we look at that pick and say Karlaftis and Dax Hill. But if you would have asked anyone in the second week of April, I don't think they would have said Dax Hill and Karlaftis, because we were looking at corners and we were looking at all these other different positions and potential. So if the tight ends go and the tackles go, I think the scenario is, could there be a scenario where it's either a corner or a pass rusher taking the best one available? And could that be a guy that checks every single box like Derick Hall does? Let's check him out.
Derick Hall, number 29 of Auburn, lined up over the right tackle here of Alabama. Goes for the inside long arm power move. Really knocks his guy off balance with it. Almost gets to the quarterback. The ball's out quickly. Makes at least a hurried errant throw that is off target from the other side angle here. You can really see that. Jab outside. Looks like he's going with the speed. Converts it to power with his long arms. And they're going to stand him up, rush him from the middle linebacker spot, blitz him. He can't get home, but he's going to roll out and run with the quarterback to make a play before the first down marker. And you're going to see this a lot with Hall. He's going to complain about the flag here, but his tackle radius and sometimes shedding and getting off blocks and getting himself clean is an issue for him. But again, we got the long arm here. At least forces the quarterback out of the pocket. He gets no help from the teammates, and the QB runs in for the score. And I always appreciate a guy that's willing to give up his ground, give up his feet right at the point where you're going to make a play on the quarterback and make a play on the ball and just go for it, man. And that's 2 plays in a row where he just is at least pressuring the quarterback and getting a hand on him. And like I said previously, he locks this guy out, reaches out for the tackle, and just can't disengage, can't make the arm tackle. Running back runs in for the score. So that's something with Hall that I noticed a lot. Just can't disengage. Here he is against the guard. Just can't get off him. But then once he does and turns into an athlete, man, he's a menace. Flipping him back over against the right tackle, and he's going to try an inside move, go back out. He just, again, can't get that guy's hands off of him, and this ends up going for a long touchdown. That's something you will see a lot with Hall. Does a much better job there. See what it looks like to disengage against a tight end, so it makes sense. This time he's going to purposely loop inside because he knows he's got some guys that'll contain on the outside for him. He beats that right tackle, makes the running back bounce outside where his teammates clean it up. So it's nice to see an athlete there be able to do that. Again, just be an athlete in space. It's what he does so well. This is Jahmyr Gibbs that's trying to shake him one-on-one with an edge rusher. And Hall is step for step with him and wraps him up very nicely. Back on the other side this time, Hall loves the long arm move. Get, those 34.5-inch arms, really long. He just can't turn the corner there, can't break down. Sometimes he's got some agility issues at the apex of the arc. And I think you see it on both of these with it's either disengaging or not being able to quickly break down. But I do also wonder at the end of that play, they play him a lot. He has played a lot. And I wonder if he gets gassed in a lot of these drives and games. But he finishes the game off with 2 nice rushes, gets a pressure, and then a holding call right there on his final play against Alabama. Switching over to sunny Georgia, and he's on the left side again here going against Darnell Washington, locks him out, disengages, makes the tackle against the run, flip him back over to the right side. He's going to go against Broderick Jones on this side, Warren McClendon on the other side, so it's nice to see. Again, there he is where he can't make the arm tackle as Darnell Washington washes him inside. Now here's Broderick Jones just really manhandling Derick Hall in a goal line play. Hall gets his revenge, splitting both these guys, drawing the attention of both and allowing the teammates to come in and make a tackle at the line of scrimmage. That's what you got to do sometimes, especially when you're getting doubled by 2 big guys like that. Throw into the flats, look at him be an athlete, do his job. It's really when he's most impressive, when he's able to completely unleash, or when he can use his long arm or turn speed into power, as he did on this pass rush right here. Back at right end, trying to trap block kind of situation here. Darnell Washington's going to let him go. The guard's going to pull over and hit him, or at least try to. He sets the edge very nicely, gets off, and helps make the tackle for a loss. Derick Hall is pretty inconsistent as a run defender, but I think there are times where he can, as a pass rusher, give these guys enough issues with his length, speed, and strength. Like right there, he forces the quarterback to see him flash inside, and the rest of his team cleans it up because of it. Then you see some issues breaking down at the arc, right there. There's no reason why he shouldn't have been able to get down and turn that corner a little bit tighter against that guard. But here, long arm, power stab, can't turn the corner, can't stay on his feet. He ends up on the ground far too often, in my opinion. Of all the DNs I watch this year, he's on the ground too much. I feel like there may be conditioning issues and then hand usage issues. Everything else is great. Like, I think he's worth a first-round pick for everything else that he can do in his high-end flashes. But it's the low-end flashes where I'm like, number one, he's probably got a lot more upside left in him because he can win like this and get around the corner, and he can win with power, and he can win with length, and he can be an athlete, and he was highly productive. So even with his issues, like right there, breaking down, making the play, finishing the play, he's still really good. And these are a few plays at the end here that I loved from this season where he wins, gets good, you know, finishes these plays. This one, not so much finishing, but I like the secondary move, the counter move, getting back inside and making a play there best he can. This is the 2021. There's 2 games from 2021. This is the first one of the 2. He gets washed inside, gets knocked down. The running back ends up cutting back into his area. Again, run defense. Sometimes Auburn's out there with a 3-man line, and, you know, I'm getting... sometimes I get a little frustrated, but here he is again being an athlete where they're letting him read, react, chase down the line of scrimmage, and make a play. And he does it in this game, I think 3 or 4 times, where it's like, yeah, just stop leaving him being the unblocked man because it's really not working for your team. Here he is again slipping at the arc, right at the point where he's got to start to make a move inside, feet slipping out from underneath him. Again, reading the read as a unblocked man. He's really good at that. And a lot of times blocking him with a tight end like this, he's just going to drive that guy, put him on skates, and he'll do that pretty often. That finishes that game. We'll move on to Penn State, which is also a nice game in space. Wide receiver screen, hunts that guy down and takes care of him. Gets a really good pass rush here, running the arc, getting around the corner this time, just missing the ball. I mean, that's when he runs that arc and really hits it, he looks really good at times. Here he is getting dumped. He's on the ground again. Nice little trap play again where they let the guard come and clean him up. And if you don't block him, again, as an athlete, Derek Hall. And then blocking him with a tight end on this side, he's going to lock him out, stay to the outside, wash, make sure everything comes back inside, and then get that tight end off of him to make a play. We got some highlights here from plays that I thought were really well done. Inside-outside move, going around the arc here and finishing around the arc against the right tackle. And then on this one, starting with speed, converting it to power, and really just manhandling the right tackle on that side. I think he looks better rushing from that side. And then he runs the arc really well from this side, forces the fumble, unsuspecting quarterback. Doesn't even hit the quarterback, just all ball right there, no foul. Again, long arm turns into a sack. Long arm again here, knocks that left tackle over. Turns into a big play, but that's fine. Dropping into coverage, one last play here. Ball gets tipped in the air, makes a nice athletic interception, jumping over the 2 guys, and rumbles for a few after the catch.
That's Derek Hall out of Auburn, just under 6'3". He's got 34-inch arms. He looks a lot like same Auburn guy, Carl Lawson. Loves the long arm, loves to convert speed into power. He's still got some development to go in terms of counter moves, setting things up, having a pass rush plan, landing your hits, getting disengaged. All the things that turn you into a great pass rusher, the things that Lawson really mastered throughout his career. He came in the league that way, but relentless worker. And Hall is a team captain. He's a hard worker. I think he can get to that point too, especially with a little bit of what's the word here? I don't want to say nutrition and diet and cardio. Like he's not in tremendous shape. The guy, obviously is a world-class athlete and tested like one. He's an elite athlete. But there were times that he got wore down while watching the Auburn tape, and I thought you're definitely getting like flashes of him where he's spent. And I think you could really improve in that part of his game. And maybe that's as a rotational guy early in his career until he's in his prime. He's 22 now. But he's been a heavy player for Auburn the last 3 years. He's got over 120 pressures and 22 sacks in those last 3 years. Most of those coming the last 2 years with 90 pressures and 18 sacks over that time frame. Derek Hall, man, 5 forced fumbles also. But he drops into coverage too. I want to get that 5 force fumbles because we had a few in those clips. He drops in the coverage as well, which is something the Bengals will do a lot with Sam Hubbard, with Joseph Ossai, with Trey Hendrickson. They like the power rushers that also are athletic enough to do a little bit and mix it up a little bit. And I think Hall definitely shows that and can do that. He's going to need some development. And I think that's where most people just watch the film and say, okay, he's a second-round pick because he's not fully there. But, man, he was highly productive. He did make a lot of plays for Auburn. He played a lot, and he tested like an elite athlete. I think the sky's the limit for this guy. And a good defensive end class, I do think it is there. But I wouldn't be surprised if this scenario came out and he's still a top 3 to 5 guy on the board at 28. I truly believe that. And then even if the Bengals don't go in that direction, or maybe it's a trade back, and then Derek Hall is the pick in the mid-30s or whatever. But, man, if he was there at 60, it'd be a slam dunk pick. I'd give him an A+. If you can come away. Now, everyone's thinking like offense, right tackle, running back, tight end, right? If they come away with Emmanuel Forbes at 28 and Derek Hall at 60, that would be an A+ start to this draft, in my opinion. And figure it out. Because I think the thing with Hall, too, is a lot of these pass rushers only play right end. You watch the Bengals defensive ends. Hendrickson's at right end. Hubbard's at left end. Ossai really was only rotating between defensive tackle and right end with Hendrickson. Cam Sample pretty much only at left end with Hubbard. I think they need more pass rush help on the Hubbard side. And when I look at Derek Hall, he spent 300 snaps on right end, 300 snaps at left end. Great. Perfect. You can mix it up. The Bengals really haven't been able to mix it up, or maybe decided not to. But Ossai played both sides too. And it could be a scenario where Ossai and Hall in 2 years are your defensive ends, and you can mix them and interchange them and swap them and not lose anything. So I think he provides a lot of value, a lot of versatility with high upside still. That's Emmanuel Forbes and Derek Hall for this week's episode of Bengals on the Brain, part of the Cincinnati Bengals Talk YouTube channel. We're getting close to it, guys. We're only going to have a couple more of these where I've got a few other guys that I'm really excited, but I went long. I went 8 minutes on each one of those guys today. I'm going to have to maybe set up a stream on this channel or something. We'll talk to James Rapine, see what he thinks, and just go through draft prospects and talk about them at length and just go question on question or player on player. And maybe you guys can submit some and we'll do a live chat. But we'll figure that out because we only have a couple more episodes until the draft starts, and then we can review the tape of these guys. And maybe the Bengals sign someone else. Maybe they extend T. Higgins or Joe Burrow, and we can have a fun highlight package of those guys and enjoy ourselves a little bit. But that's it for this week's video. Until next time,